The seventh and final installment of The Seven Sisters, called The Missing Sister, comes out in May. I thought it would be a fun idea to revisit the other books and see if we can find any clues and perhaps cobble together some theories to prepare us while we await the arrival of the seventh book. So as usual, I have timestamps in the description, and yeah, let's get started. So we start off with Maia, who's at a friend's house in London when she gets a call from Ma telling her that Pa Salt had a heart attack at the house the previous afternoon and that in the early hours of the morning he passed away. So Maia flies from London to Geneva. She arrives there about 5 hours later, and Ma tells her that Pa's body has already been laid to rest, that he wanted the burial to happen immediately and he didn't want any of the girls to be present. Maia is kind of all of us in this moment because it's weird, and she asks Ma why, and Ma says that Pa Salt was adamant that as soon as he passed away, his body be flown on his jet to his yacht, and once on board, he had to be placed in a lead coffin, and this coffin had always been on the Titan awaiting this event. From there, he should be sailed out to sea and laid to rest in the ocean because he'd always loved the ocean. Ma tells Maia that Pa Salt didn't want to distress his daughters with having to witness this whole event. Later, as Maia's watching the news, she catches this bulletin saying that the body of Kreeg and Zed, so Zed's father, had been found washed up in a cove on a Greek island. And the family had said that Kreeg had recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Okay, so we know that Zed's father actually died by suicide because he wasn't able to cope with the terminal cancer diagnosis. At least this is what Zed tells Tiggy. And yeah, we know we can't trust him, but that's what we have for now. But what are the odds that both men would die so suddenly around the same time? Both deaths have connections with their yachts as well. Also, about the lead coffin, I feel that if Pa really wanted to be laid to rest in the ocean, he would have, say, had his ashes scattered across the ocean. The lead coffin leads me to believe that if he's really dead, then his body still somehow needs to be protected. And if he's not dead, then again, he needs to be protected, but he's still alive and in hiding. The next day, Maia sees a voicemail message on her phone, and it's Zed wondering if Maia had seen the news about his father, and he also tells Maia that he heard about Pa Salt's death and that he's going to be coming to Geneva and he would like to meet up with Maia. Perhaps they can cry on each other's shoulders. Now, this is actually really important because we'll see later on in Tiggy's story, the Moon Sister, Zed kind of pretends that he doesn't know that Pa Salt is dead. And we know that in Maia's story, Zed actually called Maia the day after Pa Salt had passed away. He knew about it. This conversation between Zed and Tiggy happens months after Pa Salt's death, something like 6 months. Zed is the kind of shifty guy who always has an angle, so he's obviously lying for a reason. Tiggy also says at one point, like in a strange way, she's not sure that Pa's dead. And she says, of course he is, because he's gone and he'd never fake his death or anything. He'd know how much pain it would cause all his girls, but I just feel him around me all the time. So, if you'd lost somebody or if you're missing somebody, the idea of feeling them around you or feeling that they're with you is pretty normal. But I'm not sure how many daughters would say the line, "He'd never fake his death or anything," in the wake of their father's death. Is it because they knew that Pa Salt was just so strange? This is a red flag to me. So back to the timeline of Pa's death. In the Storm Sister and Allie's story, Allie and Theo are on a boat, and one of Theo's friends, Andy, radios in and says, "There's this super yacht called the Titan that's somewhere nearby." Allie is kind of surprised, and after she gets the binoculars, she recognizes that it definitely is the Titan, Pa Salt's yacht. Andy also tells Theo that there is another yacht there, and Theo knows this yacht. It is the yacht of Kreeg and Zed, so Zed's father. Theo says that he knows of Zed as well, that he's a spoilt rich kid, and he treats women really badly. Allie and Theo decide that it might be nice to catch up with the Titan so that they can meet with Pa Salt. However, when Ali tries to radio in to the Titan, she doesn't get any replies after several tries, and this is very suspicious to her because she went sailing with Pa a lot. In fact, he taught her how to sail, and Pa Salt always had the radio on so that the skipper, Hans, could receive any messages coming into the Titan. So not only this, but when Ali and Theo try to rush after the Titan speeds off, and it's really as though whoever's on the Titan is trying to get away from them. And Ali eventually checks the messages on her phone around the same day or perhaps the next day. She finds all these messages informing her that Pa Salt has passed away. So this scene is so suspicious that, I kind of considered that perhaps it's a red herring and Lucinda's just trying to distract us. But there's just too much going on for us to ignore. The timing, obviously, of Ali's sighting and the time of Pa's death. And then also the fact that Zed's father's ship was nearby. Is there some kind of Greek tragedy, fight to the death between the two? But Zed's father is 90 years old and he'd just been diagnosed with cancer. I don't know, but this scene, definitely something's going to come back about this. In Maia's story, Ali actually does say to Maia that she saw Kreeg and Zed's yacht the same day that she found out that Pa Salt had died. So in fact, we do have that timing. It was the same day. In the Sun Sister, Electra's story, she also has this weird, kind of creepy moment in Pa's study when she goes in there and she suddenly smells Pa's cologne, and it's pretty strong. I mean, I guess one of the sisters could have sprayed it because they missed him. I don't know. I don't know what it is about the scene. We can just put a pin in it for now, but I know there's something there. The Eszu family is really suspicious. Their yacht is found close to where Pa Salt's yacht is, the Titan, the day that the girls find out that Pa Salt is dead. The two older men kind of die around the same time, and then of course we get Zed, who keeps popping up in all of the books. And I guess we're going to have to ask ourselves, to understand this a little more, we have to look at the original Greek legend, which says that the Pleiades were 7 sisters whose parents were Atlas, a titan commanded by the god Zeus to hold up the earth, and Pleione, the mythical protectress of sailors. After a chance meeting with the hunter Orion, the Pleiades and their mother become objects of his pursuit, and to protect them from Orion's relentless amorous advances, Zeus changed them into a flock of doves, which he then set in the heavens. Zeus was also rumored to have fathered children with 3 of the sisters. Lucinda Riley told us that she knew that Zeus was going to feature in the novels because of the legend, and that she split the character of Zeus between Kreeg and Zed, the father, and Zed, the son. And much like the legend, where it says that Zeus fathered children with 3 of the sisters, Zed is involved quite heavily in 3 of the sisters' lives. He only fathered a child with Maia, but he is romantically interested and he pursues both Electra and Tiggy. Let's take a look. As we know, Maia and Zed had a fling in uni. Towards the beginning of the summer, Zed breaks up with Maia, telling her that he doesn't want to do a long-distance relationship because he doesn't feel that they work. Later on, Maia finds out that she's pregnant and she secretly gives birth and then gives the baby up for adoption. I'm calling it now. I think that this baby is going to be the Renesmee of the 7 sisters. We're definitely going to find out more in book 7. In Tiggy's story, the Moon Sister, Zed pursues her so aggressively that it's actually harassment, and Lucinda Riley said that when she was writing that she had the Me Too movement in mind, and also the fact that Zeus's pursuit of the sisters, it would have to be interpreted in a different way, and this is how it's interpreted here. Zed tells Tiggy that Charlie's estate is bankrupt, and then he tries to buy it. This is where Tiggy works, and then he also tries to get Tiggy to be the head of this new wildlife division at his company. I'm pretty sure he made up this whole division just for her, to get close to her, but yeah, it's pretty aggressive. Tiggy also points out that the way that Zed acts around her is kind of strange. It's very familiar, as if he knows her. Now, I suppose he knows that she could be Maia's sister because he refers to Maia and asks about Pa Salt, but he doesn't actually know Tiggy because he introduces himself at the New Year's party as Zed, as someone she's never met before. I guess it's safe to assume that he just did some kind of research on Tiggy, he knew who she was, and he was just pretending to be a stranger. In Electra's story, we come to find out that Electra and Zed run in the same social circles in New York and Manhattan, and they hook up from time to time. They have a kind of a friend with benefit situation, and Pa at one point knew about this, and he warned Electra against Zed, saying that he's dangerous and he's not what he seems. So this could just be Pa looking out for his daughter because he knows that Zed is a player. Maybe he knows that he got Maia pregnant and that Maia gave the baby up for adoption, or Pa knew something else. So it might seem as though I'm spending way too much time on Zed, but to me, he's the main person of interest right now. I believe that he has something to do with Pa Salt's disappearance. He has something to do with his own father's death, and I feel as though he's also involved somehow in the missing sister. So if we solve the mystery of Zed, I feel like all the pieces will fall into place. Let's move on to the next big mystery. The hidden cellar and the lift at Atlantis. So in the Moon Sister, Tiggy finds out A, that there is a hidden cellar, and B, that there is suddenly a lift at Atlantis that she had never noticed before, even when her and her sisters went exploring. Ma says that the only way to get to the cellar is by the lift, but that the lift was only installed last summer, so Tiggy wonders, how did Pa get to the cellar before the lift was installed? And she's pretty sure that she would have noticed a lift there. Anyway, when Tiggy asks Ma whether Pa was trying to hide the lift, Ma says that, oh well, maybe he was a bit proud and he didn't want the girls to know how sick he was. Well, he died of a sudden heart attack, so was he really sick? So Tiggy asks, so was it unexpected? And then Ma kind of fumbles for a second and then says, well, no, it wasn't. And she talks about how serious heart conditions can be. So it's a really good save there by Ma, but it's almost as though we kind of catch her in a lie. Then again, Pa Salt was so secretive, he very well could have been suffering from a heart condition, and perhaps Ma found out somehow and Pa swore her to secrecy because he didn't want to worry the girls. So Tiggy decides to explore the cellar a little bit more at midnight, and when she goes down there, she sees behind the wine racks a crack in the wall, and when she moves some bottles of wine out of the way, she sees a keyhole in the wall, and she has the key, which she can unlock the lock with, but because the wine racks are pushed up too heavy against the wall, she can't do anything, so she just decides to put the wine bottles back, and she aborts the mission. It's safe to say, though, that something or someone might be hidden in there. We'll get to that in a bit. A little bit more is revealed in The Sun Sister when Electra has this moment down in the cellar as well. She notices these steel doors and she panics for a moment, asking Ma if they could be trapped in there. Ma says no, but it's not unusual for a rich family to have an isolated spot in the house where they could lock themselves in and call for help in the event of a burglary or something worse. So this tells me that the previous summer Pa was anticipating something worse and he got the lift installed for that reason. Is it because of Zed and he's also trying to track down the missing sister? We don't know. I believe that there is going to be a threat, obviously, and one of or all of the sisters are going to be in danger. Perhaps it's Pa who's in danger, and at some point, someone is going to be hidden in that cellar. Let's not forget about Maia and Zed's baby. This is another way that the two families are connected, and who knows, perhaps he's discovered the baby and the baby's life is in danger, and the baby needs to be hidden. I should point out that at this point, it's not really a baby anymore. I did a bit of reading and I found out that it might be around 15 years old, so it checks out. For our next big mystery, let's look at Merope. In Maia's book, she asks Pa whether he will ever bring home a seventh sister, and he says no because he's never been able to find her. This tracks with what the family lawyer says. At the end of the Sun Sister book, George tells the sisters that him and Pa Salt have been searching for the missing sister for many years, and it seems that now the sister may have been found. So, as Lucinda Riley puts it, begins a race against time to find the missing sister so that all seven sisters can lay a wreath for Pa Salt. It seems as though the seventh sister doesn't want to be found. She keeps on slipping through their fingers. Her name is Merope, Mary. If we go by the legend, Mary is kind of considered as the lost sister because hers was the last star to be mapped by astronomers, and it's the faintest star in the cluster not visible to the naked eye. And some legends claim that she became lost because she hid her face in shame at marrying a mortal, King Sisyphus, and others say that she hid her face out of shame because her husband was a criminal. So time for my theories. I think that the evil Kreeg and Zed, well, I'm not sure if the father and the son are both evil. He might have fathered a child with Mary, and Zed is searching for Mary because that child is also the heir to the Eszu Empire, and that's what puts Mary in danger. Second, on the question whether Pa Salt is dead or not, I'm not sure. I want to say no, he's not, but that seems almost too obvious. I think perhaps he might be dead, but something about his body is very valuable. Maybe he's some kind of supernatural entity. I know I didn't write these books, so these are terrible ideas. But I just don't think that he's 100% gone. There are just too many instances of the girls feeling him around them and the weirdness that suggests that there's more to that. He's not just dead and lying at the bottom of the ocean in a lead coffin. If Kreeg and Zed is in fact dead, then and I am 100% convinced that Zed had him murdered to take over the family empire and staged his death as a suicide. And as for the identity of Pa, I mean, I'm kind of interested in who he was just as a person, what he did, who knew him and who didn't, and how the girls didn't even know what he did for work, more than I am trying to track him in the past generations throughout the books. There are a lot of Reddit threads and blogs speculating, but I honestly would just be happy if Lucinda gives us the answers in book 7. Okay, so I know some of my theories contradict each other, especially the Kreeg and Zed ones. I can't seem to make up my mind whether they're evil or if one was trying to protect the girls or not and how they're involved. But yeah, that's what we have for now. By the way, I also checked the Pearl Sister and the Shadow Sister books, but I couldn't find any references to Zed. I couldn't find any references to the hidden cellar. There was nothing that immediately jumped out at me as suspicious, apart from the fact that Pa Salt may have been Cece's father. I remember reading something like that. But to me, that kind of makes sense if Zeus was only involved with 3 of the sisters. So in this case, it would be Electra, Maia, and Tiggy. But Tiggy had rebuffed his advances, which might make Merope the 3rd sister in the Zeus storyline. I think it'll be interesting to revisit this video once the 7th book comes out, just to see how wrong I was about everything. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.